Good morning. Welcome to CSLDallas Science Mind class. Happy to have those of you here in the room. Love having those of you here online as we continue on. So we're in the first introductory chapter, the thing itself, on page 31. And one of the things that we have to understand about reading the Science of Mind book is that Ernest Holmes meant for especially this whole first section to be a philosophy/theology conversation. He is, in fact, engaging with religion, philosophy, and science as it has been involved in this ongoing conversation. Who are we? What's going on? How did we get here? Is there something larger? And if there is, what is that? And so every once in a while, he'll go off on forays into conversations which may seem either like tangents, or you might go, well, that's weird. Why is that here? Why is he talking about this? So on page 31, there's this whole section on the road to freedom is not mysterious. And what's happening here in this is well, let's read just a minute here. This is in the first paragraph. Experience has taught us that the subjective tendency of this intelligent law of creative force may consciously be directed and definitely used, right? I mean, that's like the seminal idea of the science of mind, that and oneness. Those two things, if we can get our heads and our hearts around those two things, we're well on our way to practicing, understanding and practicing not only the science of mind, but the deepest truths that humanity has uncovered. So, here we go. There is no mystery here, but a profound fact and a demonstrable one. The road to freedom lies not through mysteries or occult performances, but through the intelligent use of nature's forces and laws. The law of mind is a natural law in the spiritual world. But what do we mean by the spiritual world? We mean the world of conscious intelligence. The subjective is a world of law and of a mechanical order. In our lives, it is largely a reaction, an effect away. In caps, it is never a person, though it often appears to act as though it were one. Anytime he's in caps, anytime it's italics, well, if he's in caps, it's just like texting today. He is, in fact, shouting at us. Pay attention. And if it's in italics, it's like, don't miss it. Don't miss it. It's something important. Okay. So why is he talking about occult performances and mysteries and this idea that the subjective law, the mechanical law, never is a person, although it may appear as one? In this portion, and he's going to come back to this a few times in the rest of this book, he is over and over and over again reminding us that each one of us can do this. This is happening all the time anyway, and we're already engaged in the process. It's no longer hidden. So what you may not realize is that when you are learning the science of mind, metaphysics or new thought, you are in fact learning what they taught in the ancient mystery schools. That's part of what Jesus also did, was take all the underlying mystical understandings of the universe and bring it out in a way that people could actually begin to realize it and live it. And so this idea that you actually can create your own reality, that you are not separate from the infinite reality, as people really began to discover that, as consciousness was awakening, that was a very, very different thought than we have to survive. And who's in charge? And who owns this land? Right? Which was all about humanity surviving, civilizing itself, growing in the human experience. And so all of this information was hidden in the mystery schools, and at every level you had to be initiated, right? And you had to be initiated and prove that you understood whatever that level of teaching was before you can go on. And it was considered very secretive because it was frightening, and it was especially frightening to people in power and people who were seeking to civilize humanity. And so all of that then grew over time, not just in the mystery schools, but in all of the occult practices, all the divination practices, all the magic practices, right? And all of that became shrouded in this esoteric, sort of mystical, kind of difficult thing. And you had to, mostly you had to earn it. In the mystery schools, you had to earn it. And in all of the other occult practices, what was happening all the way up until today, and especially in Ernest Holmes's time, is that we can easily get caught on our psychic experience of life as that awakens, as we become spiritually awakened, as we awaken all of the various other senses that we have that are not the 5 physical senses. We can have all kinds of experiences, and we can think that those experiences are somehow the experience of oneness or spirit is us. And what they're doing, of course, is revealing what's in subjective mind. They're not actually revealing the truth of oneness. The mystics know that the truth of oneness goes this way, and when we are in this, when we are in the experience of our psychic senses being available and activated and doing things, right, and hearing and seeing and knowing and all of that sort of stuff, we can become as enamored with that as we are with our own physical lives. As we are enamored with, I got to make more money, I better get the promotion, I better, find the partner, I better be somebody, right? Because it's not yet the experience of that infinite reality in the oneness of it all. And so, and especially when New Thought was coming up in the late 1800s and the early 1900s here in the United States, was a huge movement of spiritualism, a massive movement of spiritualism. And of course, in that movement, there's real psychics and real people who can cross the veil and experience that connection with someone who has gone before. And there are people who can make a lot of money on that, who may or may not be actually doing that, right? And so New Thought and Science Mind, because it's so eminently practical, Ernest Holmes is over and over and over and over again trying to get us not to look outside of ourselves. So when we do a divination practice, or we look to our spirit guides or our angels, all of those things, from a Science of Mind point of view, are real, they work, they're absolutely, essentially practices, and what they are doing is revealing what is already in our subjective mind, or the subjective mind of the consciousness of humanity, and we are cloaking it in these things so that we're able to see it, or sometimes so that we're able to admit or accept that which we already know. And so what you're going to find over and over and over again as we read, and he goes on these tangents about this, all he's trying to do is to remind us that the answers aren't out there. They're always in here. And they're always available to us. And so we don't need mysterious practices. We don't need things that seem overly, well, he was also very much not into the sentimentality of the religious revivalism at the time, right? Where that was really like sort of an emotional experience of, and you know, people having that emotional experience, maybe having a momentary healing, but then when the emotion is gone, so is the healing. So in the science of mind, what we recognize is that the psychic experience is no more good or bad than the physical experience. It's just more experience. It's just more of the ways in which we engage with life itself. And it is not the experience of the infinite in its totality. We're still having an experience of something that is an effect, not a cause. And what science of mind always wants us to get to is the cause. When we can get to cause, we are engaging in the very occult and mystery school practices that were taught in ancient times and under the guise of goddesses and initiations and all of those sorts of things. So there's over and over and over again, right? We want to remind ourselves there's nothing wrong with those things. We just don't want to be fooled into thinking that we can't make a decision or a choice unless we have contacted our psychic, or unless we've read the cards, or unless we've had our spirit, our angels tell us what to do, right? Because each time we do that, we are in fact giving our power away. We are in fact not taking responsibility that we ourselves are the universe showing up. We are not lowly humans who don't know any better and now have to have something outside of us that is more spiritual than us tell us what the truth is for us. This is where we continually run up against our sense of separation and the difficulty we have in really understanding the truth of who we are. And this is some of the most critical work that we do. It is the recognition that the sense of separation is only a sense of separation. There's not the spiritual world out there and spirit and the guides and the, you know, what really knows, and then us down here as human beings, and we're trying to bridge the gap. There is no gap. That which we think is out there is in fact also here. What we're trying to do is to get everything out of the way that has created the sense of there being a gap. And we can go into a big long conversation about why that gap is important, or that sense is important, because it is what individualizes us, right? So we get to the paradox of, oh my God, we're the universe and individualized at the same time. And because that's a paradox and it's challenging, our brains and our heart and our need to overcome that can cloak that gap in something that looks like a person, something that looks like it's smarter than we are, something that looks like it knows more than we are. But all we're actually doing is tapping into either our own subjective mind or the field of consciousness that we share as humanity, or that we share in our culture or in our family. And so, of course, we can know things that we shouldn't know. Of course, we can see and hear and recognize and experience things that are all already present in the field, because we're using then that whole other set of senses. But we don't want to be fooled into thinking that we ourselves don't know, right? That there isn't something within us that knows. So the road to freedom is not mysterious. Over and over and over again in the Science of Mind, well, this is going to be a reminder. It's very practical. Now, the other thing you want to know about Ernest Holmes and his writing of the Science of Mind, and I know this because of the research I've been doing for the new rewriting of the New Thought History class, is that in this time period, in the late 1800s and early 1900s, Theosophy was also really coming to the forefront, right? Theosophy came around in the 1800s, and it was a actually might have been 17 and 1800s, but anyway, it was a articulation of the mystery schools. And oh my God! And so I've been reading some of these books, and you think the Bible is repetitive and overwhelming. Oh my God, it's just wild that they're completely, and it's all about initiations and then the levels of vibration and experience, and it's all very lovely and wonderful, but it is like wading through quicksand. And so this, one of the things that Ernest Holmes was doing in writing The Science of Mind is out of everything, whether it's theosophy, whether it's world religions, whether it's the mystical traditions, what he was trying to do, which is basically what Aldous Huxley was doing in the Perennial Philosophy, was looking for the golden thread. Where's the underlying truths? And in some of these books that I finally had to just give myself permission to stop reading, right? Just like in the Christian Bible, just like in the Bhagavad Gita, hidden in these stories, right, comes that shining light of truth that just leaps right off the page. And they're always the same, no matter what you're reading. They're always the same. We're all part of the whole. Spirit is forever present. Life is always for good. We actually are participating in the process. There are ways we can engage in it. We can learn how to do that. I mean, over and over and over and over again. And so because of the spiritualism and the rise of theosophy and all of that, right, Science of Mind, Ernest Holmes and Science of Mind is eminently practical. Very practical. He's like, okay, that's all really nice, but is your life any better? Are you happier? Are you more whole? Are you healthy? Is life working? Right? And so constantly reminding us that while it's wonderful to explore all of those things, just like it's wonderful to explore the beauty of life on earth here right now, we want to do our work at the causal level, not at the level of the effect of things that are outside of ourselves, which is either the physical experience or even that which is happening in the psychic realm. So, the simplest way to state the proposition is to say that we have a conscious mind that operates within a subjective field which is creative. The conscious mind, now notice, we have a conscious mind that operates in a subjective field which is creative. The conscious mind is spirit. What does that imply about our conscious mind? That is spirit as us, right? Now, it doesn't say our left brain intellectual mind. Going to over and over again remind us that's not what he's talking about. It's our awareness, our ability to be conscious and aware of life, set intentions, be deliberate about things, right? To be consciously engaged. That operates within a subjective field. Remember last week we even talked about the quantum field, and the subjective field could potentially, be very similar. Which is creative. The conscious mind is spirit, the subjective mind is law. And remember, again, over and over again, subjective mind is a little challenging term. He's talking about the universal law, the spiritual law of cause and effect, the stuff out of which everything is made. that subjective field that is holding, as Edgar Cayce called it, the Akashic records, the Jung called it the collective unconscious. All of that is this creative field. One is the complement of the other, and no real individuality could be expressed without a combination of both. Which means you are not, how should we say this? I know we don't say should. But you should never give your power away to something or someone else. Your individuality is a combination of your conscious and subjective reality. That conscious reality is spirit as you. It is the essential self that you are, awake and aware of what's going on and engaging with that subjective field and the law and the creative process in a way that is our engagement with all of that. That's what makes us uniquely individual, because we can do that. Actually, the truth is we are doing it whether we're paying attention to it or not. So that's what this whole section is about. And this constant reminder that it's here that we're looking, not like we're the center of the universe, but we're the center of our own universe. And we are, in fact, engaging. He says on the next page, our mind and spirit is the echo of the eternal thing itself. And this, our mind and spirit. And the sooner that we discover this fact, the sooner we are made free and happy. Science of mind, if it's nothing else, is a liberation theology. Well, it's not really a theology, so we call it a liberation philosophy, to be freed of anything outside of ourselves that we believe has control of us, that we are victimized by, or that we somehow have to appease, or any of those things. That's what he's doing, right? That's what he's doing. And sometimes I feel like I join him in that. All right, so there you go. So, so what do you want to talk about that about?
That's a hard act to follow. We're on a roll there.
Well, yeah, so is there a question or a comment or a, and again, it's not making anything wrong. Just like we don't make, wine, women, and song wrong either. It's just that those are effects. Do you see? Even psychic phenomena is an effect. It's never a cause. And our spiritual work is to get to cause and to get to causal reality and to recognize that we are being cause in our own lives. Now, this doesn't mean that there aren't signs that we draw to us. This doesn't mean that there aren't lovely metaphors. It doesn't mean that there, you can go to the tarot cards, or you can, go to your runes or go to your pendulum, but you can just as easily go to the books in your library or go to the Wall Street Journal. Just ask a question, sit quietly, trust the answer is going to come, and then open the book. Or it doesn't matter what you open. Walk down the street and notice what catches your eye. You did that. You did that. You attracted to yourself exactly what you already know but haven't been yet able to see. Right? And so you attract it. And it's like, oh. And all of a sudden you stitch those things together. Right? And it could be talking to a friend. It could be having someone do divination for you. But always remember that all that's being revealed, you are revealing yourself to yourself. If it didn't resonate, you would look at the billboard and it wouldn't catch your eye. Right? It wouldn't be something that speaks to you. And so it's fun. You can try this. Just really know that the answers are absolutely present. and that you are pulling them out of the ethers. It's exactly what we do when we say, I'm going to go into meditation and I'm going to contemplate it. And then we like to say it's been downloaded to us. Why? Because we've attracted it. Because it's already there and available, and we're making ourselves, we're drawing it right out of what we already know. Why? Because we are spirit. The infinite intelligence that already knows, that already does in fact know. And so so it's great to attract it to us. It's great to get a little encouragement or a little validation or even just a little nudge. Oh, that's really interesting. Yeah. Right? But it's never a person doing that. And this is really challenging sometimes to, because we like to know that somebody out there is watching us. We like to know that somebody out there is protecting us and taking care of us, right? But this is also grown-up spirituality. And that can be really challenging. So we have a comment in the room. Hi, Dr. Jane.
Hi. I guess I was just, is it on?
Yes.
Okay. I guess I was just thinking how intimidating that is for me, how scary that is. The reason I think I would look to an angel or a psychic is because, darn it, it's scary to think I am the cause of that.
Yes.
It's just so awesome. I see why religions were created, so somebody else can be in charge and we can think we have to go through God or whatever we think it, right, whatever name we want to put out on the outside circumstances.
Yeah. And the reality of it is the only reason it's scary is because we believe in our humanness. We believe that our humanness is the only reality. And our humanness feels small and finite because it is. It is small and finite.
And vulnerable.
And vulnerable, right. That's right. Absolutely, right? And so the shift into our spiritual reality, I can remember the years that I spent saying to myself, well, I may not know, but there's that within me which does. And what am I doing? I'm shifting the locus of identity. There's that within me which knows. Right? I'm working to shift. This is exactly what we do in our second step of our spiritual mind treatment. We're shifting our identity from the human that becomes frightened to the spiritual truth that does in fact know. But not only is it scary, but I'm going to talk about this in the Sunday celebration here in a little bit. We don't want to take that kind of responsibility. Oh my God. Because of course, our deepest knowing and our, and our fear and our trying to figure it out, those two things can certainly get tangled up. We can't always tell the difference, which is a great reason to, in fact, do some of these practices. Because it can pull out, or we can see more clearly, oh, that resonates as my spiritual truth. Oh, that's my fear talking. Right? Sometimes we need that out. We need to see it out here because we're in here and we're like, it's all right. It can get all mished up. And that's why these practices are in fact so valuable. We just have to know what they are and what they're doing, right? And not to either be afraid of them or overly invest in them as if it's something outside of ourselves that is telling us something. Right? We're wanting to be causal. We're wanting to move to that place of being causal. So using all of those tools is valuable, but ultimately then we do have to take responsibility. Ooh, who wants to do that? I had a lovely button on my desk for years. I finally decided I needed to let go of it. But it said, well, I didn't say it was your fault. I just needed somebody to blame. Right? Because it's hard to take responsibility for our mistakes. It's even harder to take responsibility for the fact that which is the truth of our being has the power to create powerfully. And it's scary, right? And it's why we have spiritual community. That's why we hang around together, so that when we get scared, we have someone else who can remind us it'll be okay. Yes, you can do this. Or let me know the truth about you because you're having trouble knowing the truth about yourself. That's why we rely on our spiritual coaches, our practitioners, our community members, because they're not inside all this going on, right? They're not in here. They have to go talk to somebody else when, for their own stuff. But for us, they can know the truth. Right? They can see that so clearly because they're not meshed in that mesh of the paradox that we are spiritual beings having a human experience. Both of those things are simultaneously true. And the question is always, where are we standing? Where are we standing? Are we standing as the spiritual being, or are we standing as the human experience? Okay, so I had the wonderful privilege of going to an amazingly fabulous birthday party last night. I was totally in my human experience. The food was fabulous. The sun was amazing. It was gorgeous. You know what I mean? I was like totally in the savoring of the human experience. Absolutely. It's not about not having that, or that, again, that's bad or wrong, or we're not trying to transcend it. We're just remembering that that's an effect, never a cause. Unless we make it a cause. Right? We make it a cause by deciding that it's doing it to us, whatever it is. All right, we have a comment over here, and I guess, Ryan, we're going to have to say good morning to you at some point.
I've been feeling a little neglected lately. But it's all right. We are having a juicy conversation, so.
So we have a comment on the floor here, and if you want to just shout out if there's a comment there or raised hand there, we'd have.
Well, let's give them some instructions first. So for those who are here in the room, I guess you all know what to do, which is really great. For anybody that's new here with us, you can always raise your hand and ask a question or comment. The reason why we have a microphone is not so we could hear you, but the folks online can hear you, and they can participate in this engagement as well. And welcome to all those online, which I see and hear all of you have been interacting in the chat here with everybody. We see you here on Zoom.
I love that.
So if you'd like to interact with us, all you need to do is hit the raise your hand icon, and I'll bring you into the room. Or as always, you can leave your questions and comments inside of the chat. And the same goes true for those who are looking at us all over the Ethernet of the internet inside of the world that we know. I see a lot of people from over in Europe today watching us. That's
good.
Really great.
Yay. Good. Oh, we should say
evening.
Good evening.
Good evening to you all. So it's really great to have you guys here. So make sure to check in, tell us where you're watching us from, and also leave your questions and comments. And my silky smooth voice will bring it here into the room. Also, shout out to our iconic Richard, who's over here helping me today pass the microphone.
And let's do a shout out to Val Guillaume for our fabulous new backdrop of all her beautiful art.
Yes.
So go ahead, Ryan.
Stealing my sunshine again, Petra. I've been over here. I have 3 lines to say, and she takes 2 of them. Now you guys get to witness what I have to go through.
What you have to put up with.
What I have to put up with.
know.
All right, so we're so grateful for your questions and comments. Sorry to sidetrack you all, but I see we have Dennis. You have the microphone. You want to go ahead and have your question?
Yeah, good morning. This is a very powerful subject. I mean, this could be and probably is an 8-week class of its own, but but no, freedom through cause. Freedom. When I first started practicing science, I might have been here about a year, and I was doing mind treatments over and over and over and getting nowhere treating fear. Okay, but they just kept coming. It'd be okay for a day or two, but here we go again. Least little thing had happened, and I'm back where I was. I went to a seminar. This psychologist guy from, I think, Colorado, he came here and he did 2 seminars. One anybody could go to. The second one, you had to be a practitioner. This man was great. I bought his little book. It's called Faith It Till You Make It. I'm reading this book, and he's got like this 2-page part in there that focuses on the characteristics of someone with a victim mentality. The man stripped me naked. Okay, so I thought, wow. I mean, I closed the book and I sat on my bed because I was in bed reading it. I closed the book and I just sat there and contemplated that for I don't know how long. I started doing mind treatments that I'm not a victim.
Yes.
And started using that affirmation. Every time fear would pop, I'm not a victim. The fear just melted away. So, from that experience, I have come to believe anytime I'm doing treatment over and over and over and over and getting nowhere, I'm not treating the cause.
Yes. 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 Excellent. Excellent. I mean, that's such a brilliant thing to realize, is that when it feels like we're not manifesting something or something isn't shifting, is that we are not actually working with the cause that has created that experience, and that we haven't shifted the actual cause or set a new cause in motion, right? Sometimes the cause is going this way and we set a new cause in motion, we just cut it right off. And that has to stop manifesting because we've decided to manifest this something very different. And it's super insightful, right? And so we have to remember that what we're doing is that we're constantly setting a new cause in motion. So rather than saying, I'm resolving my fear, I have no fear, Dennis said, I am not a victim. That is a brand new cause. A brand new cause. And then to recognize that I am, what's the opposite of a victim? Powerful, creative, responsible, making it happen, doing the deal. Wow, right? And we can do that in a very, very empowering way. And again, I'm going to talk about this just in half an hour. I'm going to talk about this. So we can be afraid of the responsibility of that. We can also be afraid of the no limits of that. How do I know it's the right thing to choose? How do I know what the right cause is? But if you're spirit, the universe, individualizing as you, there's no such thing as a right or wrong cause. There's just a cause that has consequences that you like, or effects that you like, and causes that has effects that you don't like. Right? So if I'm causal out of fear and hate and anger, and I make a mess of my life, right? That's just the feedback mechanism of the effects. And I get to go, wow, I was free to do those things, but I'm not liking the way it's turning out. And hopefully humanity is awakening to the same. We're not liking the way our discrimination and lack of equity and the ways in which we've treated our planet, it's playing out, starting to really play out in a big way. And we're getting to see the effect of the causes that we have set into motion. The good news is that over and over and over again, we can set new causes in motion. And there are literally millions of people doing that. Setting new causes in motion for humanity as a whole, taking responsibility for that, setting new causes in motion, and we can do the same for ourselves. Yeah, it's a great insight. We have another comment here. Hi, Shauna.
Hi. I think on the same topic, and maybe you said it, but some teacher said there's never a mistake. So one of the things that has helped me that I've been taught is in the process, everything is still on the way to where you want to go, right? And that's helped me give myself a lot of grace, because I think in this discussion about accountability, when things don't work out, I think the hardest thing is not self-criticizing, self-blaming. The hardest thing for me personally is to when bad things happen, right, in my life to myself or people I love, is to stay out of that negativity, right, and stay in self-love, right? to me, that's the hardest accountability, is no matter what, to stay in the self-love. And one of the things that helps me do that is something either you taught me or somebody else taught me that says, look, it's all on the way, right? Just sort of make, like maybe it was you with your GPS, analogy. Just make a course correction, right?
And
you're learning.
Right. That's the thing, right? 1, you're learning. 2, you're practicing, right? Which is the same thing we do when we do anything. You want to learn a new sport, you want to learn a new instrument, right? So first of all, you have to learn how to hold the racket or hold the instrument and all that sort of stuff. And we're going to make lots of mistakes, but we recognize that the mistakes are on the way to getting better. What we don't do is give ourselves that same grace and permission that we're going to make mistakes, or we're going to have things not work out because maybe we're treating for the wrong cause or we're treating for the wrong thing. We haven't quite yet hit it. It's all learning. I used to say to my son, I still say to him, there's no such thing as a mistake if you've learned from it. There's no such thing as, because it's all opportunities to go, oh, well, that didn't work. Oh, well, that wasn't quite right. Oh, well, that wasn't what I wanted or what I meant, right? That's all learning. It's all just feedback. Somebody recently said to me, I never like to use the word consequence. I just call it feedback, right? It's just feedback. That this is where this particular train of thought or this particular train of causality is going to take me. And if I'm not appreciating the feedback, I can learn, oh, then let's see what I have to shift. And then other times we actually have learned, we've learned it intellectually, we've learned it maybe emotionally, but we are not practiced at it yet. And so then when there's nothing more to learn, it's literally practice. And I think about people who learn a sport. I think about a friend of mine years and years and years ago decided to take up tennis and got reasonably good. And then it was like, I'd just like to get better. So I actually hired a coach. And the biggest problem was the serve. The serve was always kind of lackluster, and it was would go in the net, or just wasn't quite right. And she was like, ah. So she got a coach for a few sessions, and they worked on the serve. And the one thing the coach said was, hold your elbow like this. Hold your elbow like this. Hold your elbow like this. It was just, and she had to practice actually holding her elbow in not even that big of a difference. That was the thing that the coach saw. And the minute that she could get her elbow in that right place, man, that serve was great. But she hadn't yet, it wasn't yet muscle memory, it wasn't yet, and then she'd do it the old way. And he'd say, hold your elbow like this. And she'd be like, ah, right? But eventually the practice of it, then it became second nature for her to actually hold her arm and her elbow in that better spot, and her serve significantly increased, right? And so on the one hand, it's learning. So she learned how to do that serve better, but then she had to practice it over and over and over and over again. And so when we know that, right, then there's no, it's not that there's no judgment. Then we can release ourselves from the judgment, right? Because we immediately go to, I did it wrong again.
But you said something that really caught me. She had to see it too. And she couldn't even see it till the coach saw it. Well, you stepped back because you also said something really important to me. She didn't even see it till the coach saw it.
Yes.
So she had to see the contrast.
Yes.
She didn't know what she didn't know either.
Right.
Yeah.
And so if we can take all the shame and blame out of it, right? I'm not manifesting and I'm not demonstrating it. Oh, I didn't like that. I don't like it. What am I doing wrong? Guilt, shame, blame, all that sort of stuff, right? But if we can understand that it's learning and practice, then we can teach ourselves how to hold it differently, right? And then we have to get over all of our test anxiety and all the that made a mess with us at school, right? All the things, I'm afraid of getting the red mark or the bad grade or all of that, right? We have to then actually process all of that. We are not victims. We are not victims of any of that. And we can, and that's what's in our subjective mind, right? That's what's in our consciousness, and our conscious thought and our intentionality is to say, no, I am not going to beat myself up. I am going to give myself permission to understand that what I'm doing is learning or practicing, right? And so we're reframing it until that way of engaging with our experience becomes natural, instead of the learned behavior of beating ourselves up or feeling like we're not doing it right. Okay, good, beautiful. All right, so yes, we are at cause. We're always at cause, actually, whether we know it or not. So why not embrace it and have fun with it, right? Why not enjoy it and engage with it? All right, so we're going to continue carrying on. I'll try to point out those times as we read where Ernest Holmes is really getting involved, either in what's happening in his time period or conversations that have been going on philosophically for thousands of years, all of those kinds of things, so we can make sense of why these particular things are here as we're reading along and exploring. So have a beautiful Sunday morning. We'll see you in the celebration. And if you're in Dallas, love to see you on Wednesday nights for the meditation. We will see you wherever we see you again. Have a beautiful day. Bye for now.